This meeting is called to order. Roll call.
Mayor McClellan. Mayor Pro Tem Radner. Here. Councilmember Byrd.
Here.
Councilmember Rich.
Here.
Councilmember Weiss.
Here.
Okay, item 4 is the approval of the agenda. There's the consent agenda, which is routine
Items that are
presented to the City Council for approval without discussion. They're presented as a single
agenda item. If any council member wishes to discuss or disapprove of any item, then it must be dropped from the blanket motion of approval and considered as a separate item. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any discussion or questions?
Yes. A question for Mr. Tungate or perhaps one of his staff. Just the reason for M, the change order. I'm just curious about the reason for the change order.
Yeah, and I'm going to have the Assistant City Manager, Kevin Yee, join me at the podium for this one. This is on the Grandin Street reconstruction project.
Good evening. Agenda item M is a change order that's actually a reduction. So if it was any type of increase to the contract, it would be a separate item in the city manager's section of the council agenda. So the change order is a balancing change order. So basically we take our final bid quantities and bid items, and when we look at the overall cost of the project and the items that were done, there was a balancing change order that was a reduction to the contract.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any further discussion or questions?
I had a question for the city manager for item I, for the final payment from 2012 for sewer and catch basin cleaning. I was just wondering why we're now paying that and we didn't pay it earlier.
Sure. Assistant City Manager Yee.
Yes, that was an item that was retainage left on the contract, and I realized it was from 2012, but it actually got kind of lost in the shuffle, and we never released that retainage. So when the contractor actually was doing their balancing of their books, they realized that they had never had that retainage released to them. So they contacted us, we checked it out, and in fact we never did release that retainage. So this is just money that was owed and that was never released.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion or questions? I think we're ready for a vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Good one.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Councilmember Burns. Don't have that chance.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yeah.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Motion carries. Recognition of elected officials. I see that we actually have several elected officials here tonight. Oakland County Commissioner Elaine Zach.
Good evening, everybody. Couple of greetings from Oakland County. Tonight, there's conflict. There is a town hall meeting being held at Cranbrook Science Center on water. And some of the things that they're addressing, there was a big water outage in Oakland County. 304,000 residents were affected by a water main break that was around Farmington Hills, west side of the county. And it evoked a total emergency response. And there are concerns about infrastructure countywide. That's one of the topics they're addressing. And then I have heard from countless people about septic systems. And we don't have septic systems in this end of the county, but Oakland County does have roughly about 100,000 septic systems in Oakland County, and about 25% of them go bad. And that does impact water, and people are concerned about clean water. So there will be a study group formed by the Board of Commissioners to look at water issues around, to look at our ordinance and our code, to change things so that there would be, hopefully, change things so that there would be regular inspections of these septic tanks, rather than just when homes are sold or places are sold. So that's coming up. I do want to let you know that there is an opportunity for people to win prizes by shopping locally. There is Small Business Saturday, which is after Thanksgiving. And last year, Oakland County started their own additional contest where you can shop locally and win prizes up to $5,000 by entering things. And to do that, what people have to do is to go to Oakland County OakGov, and there's directions. I'm going to leave cards here. Maybe it can be put on the website. What's different this year, I brought it to the county official attentions that I have religious people on this end of town that don't shop on Saturdays. So this is a week-long effort now. So you can shop locally starting Small Business Saturday through the next Saturday and apply your bills. You're texting, and then you follow the instructions to enter this contest. So I'm going to leave this here. I also want to let people know that the Oakland County Clerk's Office is traveling to this end of town, and that they will be at the Ferndale Library on October 28th. November 28th. I'm behind. From 10 to 11:30 a.m. at the Ferndale Library, which is 222 East 9 Mile Road. And I know that some people don't want to travel up to Oakland County. You can do whatever type of official document that you need. You can get it at the Ferndale Library on November 28th instead of going up to the county. And I know that periodically the clerk will travel to Oak Park and other communities as well. Any questions for me?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us yet again. Our other elected officials are the illustrious judges of the 45th District Court. Do you wish to address us, or are you here for a different matter?
Item 15.
That's what I thought. Okay, well, we have some accounting reports we have to get to. First, we need a motion for the approval for payment of services by Garen Luca Miller PC for legal services in the total amount of $14,459.25.
So moved?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, are there any questions or discussion? Vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Motion carries. We also have here, we need a motion for the approval for payment of an invoice submitted by Seacrest, Wardle, Lynch, Hampton, Truax, and Morley for legal services in the total amount of $17,239.95.
So moved?
Second?
Having been moved and seconded, are there any questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes. Motion carries. We have some ordinances. This is the first reading of an ordinance to amend Article 2, Definitions, Section 204, Article 8, Section 802, Special Land Uses, and Article 19, Section 1919, Self-Storage Warehouse, Appendix A, zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oak Park, Michigan. Do we have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any discussion or question?
Can we have an explanation of what this is and the moratorium and just a little bit of the history behind it?
Eric?
Absolutely. I'm going to have our Director of Economic Development, Kim Maroney, join me at the podium. And Ken, if you would just give a brief overview of the moratorium that council placed on this item, as well as the first reading of this particular change.
Yes, good evening. The moratorium was originally placed on self-storage units because we had an overwhelming demand from people wanting to develop new self-storage units. So we wanted to put a moratorium on it so we had an opportunity to take a step back and see what the actual demand was and how we could better amend our ordinances so we didn't have the self-storage capital in Oak Park. Based on our research, demand national-wide is 5 to 8 square feet per person. We actually have 16.29 square feet per person for every person in Oak Park. So we are more than adequately attuned for our self-storage units. So what we did is we wanted to amend the ordinance to make it a little more restrictive, not allowing it in commercial spaces, tiny commercial spaces, and looking what other communities did. And most of them are doing it on larger parcels and industrial areas that maybe front some of your commercial corridors. So based on that, we decided to amend our ordinance.
And so the main part of this is to make it so that it is not allowed in business districts, but in light industrial districts.
Correct. And also putting a size requirement on the lot. We looked at the lots that most of our storage units are at, and they're usually on sizable lots, but we do have a few, some as small as a quarter of an acre, so we didn't think that that was an appropriate land use.
Councilmember Rich.
I'm having a hard time reading the ordinance. It says at the beginning that these facilities may be permitted in certain districts as specified in the ordinance. That's at the top of section 1919. I turn the page over to section 3 of the proposed ordinance, and again, it says self-storage facilities may be permitted in certain districts as specified in the ordinance.
Correct.
Which districts and where specified?
So with the new ordinance, we are allowing them in the light industrial district.
All right, now I understand that. I just can't find that language in here.
So what happens is under the light industrial section of zoning uses is that's where it would be identified. May.
Yeah, but I'm having a hard time finding.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Finding the
and
word
I-
light, and maybe we're missing a paragraph?
That's kind of what I'm thinking here, is that maybe we're missing a page
So maybe we
that
should,
show it as an allowed use in light industrial.
do you find it? If not, maybe we should continue this to the next council meeting to get that paragraph in there.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could.
Mr. Tungate.
Just a couple things. I don't know that would change anything, Kim. I mean, I think
No.
that paragraph should be in there, but the effective change is on the cover sheet. And will essentially codify the rest of the ordinance wherever that appears, correct?
Yeah, and we can make the amendments before the second meeting. And I don't think we're amending anything that you have in front of you. I just think you're missing a page on the allowed uses in the light industrial district and showing it not as an allowed use in the B2 district where it currently is allowed.
So if I understand it correctly, that part's not being amended?
The allowed uses?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so when we have the second reading, do you think that that language also can be added onto our agenda so that we can see that as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. Councilmember Rich, does that satisfy your needs?
I am satisfied.
Amazing. Are we ready for a vote, or are there additional questions or discussion?
I do have one other question. Is there anything in, and I didn't read it, but if we're missing parts, there might be, relating to density of self-storage areas?
No, that has nothing to do with it. We thought about putting that as a restriction. It can't be within so many feet of another one, but we didn't think that that was something we should add to it.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? I believe we're ready for a vote.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Motion carries. The The next ordinance that's up is for the City Council to consider accepting the recommendation of the Planning Commission to conduct the first reading of the proposed text amendments to the City of Oak Park zoning ordinance, Article 17, Site Plan Review. Is there a motion?
So moved?
Support.
Having been moved and seconded, well, it was seconded by Councilmember Rich and Councilmember Burns. Is that going to be an issue for you, Mr. Norris?
I'll pick one.
Pick one. Pick your favorite. Having been moved and seconded, are there any discussions or questions about this one?
Yes.
Councilmember Rich?
If I understand, I want to make sure, this is a question for Mr. Tungate and for his staff. It's my understanding that the purpose of this ordinance change is to bring us in compliance with what the state of Michigan wants for its so-called best practices for RDC, redevelopment-ready communities, right?
That's correct.
And it's like getting certified those certain ways if you want to do work with the auto companies and so forth, I assume. That this way we can, okay. And then, but by adopting this, any site plan, any site plan for a new development would be approved by the Planning Commission and not have to then come up to this body, correct?
That is my understanding. Director Maroney, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, that is correct. One thing I would like to add, though, is if it falls outside of what is allowed in our ordinances and zoning, they would have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to get any additional approvals. So everything that would be approved by the Planning Commission would be allowed within our ordinances and our zoning.
Does this apply residential and commercial?
It applies to, well, residential currently, unless it's an apartment complex, doesn't come for the site plan review.
But it's across the board, essentially, correct?
It is, yeah, but we don't do residential homes.
Mayor Pro Tem Reiner, if I could, Director Maroney, one other thing that I wanted to have you specify for them, if down the road they feel like this is not working for them, they have the ability then to go back and reverse it,
You
correct?
can always change it.
Yeah.
It would pull us out of compliance, which we can deal with those ramifications later.
With regard to your job,
Yes.
trying to bring, and you've done a great job at it.
Well, thank
We've got
you.
a lot of new stuff happening in the city. Is this important for your job, for what you're trying to do to bring development into the city?
Yeah, it's important in two ways. In one way, it definitely speeds up the process and allows a developer to get their jobs done quicker, and to them, that is the most valuable tool you can give to them. And then from the other standpoint, the RRC certification allows us to gain access to funds we currently don't have today, which is another incentive. So projects we can incentivize by giving them grants or
Some
special
examples,
funding
maybe?
sources.
What type of grants, what type of funds are you talking about?
There's a few available through the state of Michigan that unless you're an RRC certified community, you don't have access to. So they could give, let's say if we had a brew pub would be one that would qualify, they can incentivize that with a grant up to, I believe, $150,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it looked like you still had a question. Councilmember Burns?
I just wanted to say that this is tied to us getting certified when we had the two presentations from the gentleman and all those additional funds.
Yes.
And this will benefit not just getting automotive plants and jobs here, but everything across the board. It will make us available to get more funds and have access to things that the uncertified municipalities don't have. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I remember.
I believe Mr. Tungate wants to add to that.
Councilmembers, I wanted to add a sidebar note to this. When I initially saw this proposal, I, of course, was taken back in surprise, as Director Maroney knows. I think this is it's a big change. It's a big change in the way we do business, but I do think it certainly will streamline the process, and we have a great group on our Planning Commission, of course, here in Oak Park, but if you don't like it, as I wanted Kim to clarify, you certainly have the ability through changing a local ordinance to reverse it. Or if an administration in Lansing were to change or whatever.
And then this will have us one more green square.
Yes, I believe we're at 73% now, so we're getting there.
Councilmember Weiss.
You may have been alluding to what I was about to ask. I'm not sure what the green square is, but is there other requirements that we still need to meet?
Yes.
And what are those, like where are we at on that?
Most of them are in regards to zoning. We have to allow for a couple different types of housing, green infrastructure, come up with non-motorized transportation within our zoning, and then we also need to add mixed use as an allowed use somewhere within the city. And the last item, I believe, is creating a marketing plan. So.
It's on the website.
Any additional questions or discussion? Councilmember Rich.
Just one comment. I am going to vote for this, but the comment is, we have to make sure our planning commission is excellent.
Remains excellent.
Remains excellent. Correct, remains excellent.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, if things change in the future, we change the ordinance. But that's really what we have to recognize. The planning commission is super important. So I will be voting for it with that understanding.
And if I could make a comment too, as the council approves the planning commission, there is some oversight there because we're approving the people who are approving these plans, essentially.
Absolutely. And one other thing to add, there are 2 council members that sit on the planning commission and vote, as well as our city manager.
Any further discussion or questions? Are we ready for a vote?
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
The motion carries. Okay, we have a memo here from our city attorney. Why don't we give her the floor and ask her to briefly explain what this is, please?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Excuse me. Good evening. As you indicated, I have a memorandum I prepared for you as well as a proposed resolution for your consideration. This is a resolution declaring a change in the city charter, the nominating petition deadline. The memo gives you a bit of brief background, excuse me, but of important note, the state amended the election law back in 2012 to reflect the due date for nominating petitions 15 weeks prior to an election. Before this, the deadline was 12 weeks. Although the City of Oak Park has been conducting elections in accordance with the amended state law since 2012, based on my research, it appeared that there had never been any formal action taken by City Council to document the change in the nominating petition deadlines. The Michigan Municipal League had undertaken a thorough search and review of all of the cities in the state of Michigan to address this issue. And there's been a recommendation that the city can pass a resolution to fix this discrepancy in the charter language. The Home Rule City Act provides that notwithstanding any charter provision, the city may provide by resolution for an election that is consistent with the current Michigan election law. In that regard, I prepared that resolution, and I do recommend that this council go ahead and pass this. Again, we have been operating in accordance with the state law, but just as a matter of housekeeping, at this point, I would like you to pass this resolution, which will amend the city charter language, and the city clerk's office would send an annotation to our municipal code company, and they would then, excuse me, affect that change so that going forward, there's no question that we are consistent with the state law. If you have any questions, well, first, I think if you would.
Do we have a motion? Yeah, do we have a motion for to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Support.
Having been moved and supported, are there any additional questions for our illustrious city attorney? Does not appear to be so, because you explained it so well the first time around. Thank you. Vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Motion carries. City Manager Tungate, you have a couple of things you want to tell us about?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Radner. 15A is a resolution approving a contract between SCAO and the 45th District Court for the 2018 Veterans Treatment Court Grant Program. We have representatives from our 45th District Court. Judge Apple.
Thank you for having me here. It's nice to be here 2 weeks in a row for happy occasions. Some of you have seen the vet court graduations. This is the renewal through the state court administrators to continue the program I think it's one of the best programs we run, and now we'll be tied with the new mental health court that you're about to hear about. So we urge you to accept the money so that we can continue doing this good work, and that if it fits in your schedule, I believe my next graduation is in March, and I hope you all put it on your calendar to be there. So, thank you.
And Judge Gubo, did you have something to add as well? Or you're going to do that?
I'm on B.
Oh, okay, all right. City Manager Tungate, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, council members, I wanted to, maybe you need to get a first and a second before I...
Yeah, we probably should. Can we have a motion for a resolution approving the contract between the State Court Administrative Office, known as SCAO, and the 45th District Court for the 2018 Veterans Treatment Court Grant Program?
And
So
just
moved.
for your, just so you know, it's $42,000.
Very good to know.
It's on here somewhere. I saw it.
Support?
Okay, having been moved and supported, are there any additional questions or comments before we get to Mr. Tungate?
We did this last year. How much was the grant last year?
We got more this year.
37? Got a little bit more this year.
All righty. Okay, and
And
Mr.
actually,
Tungate.
Mayor Pro Tem Redner, if I could reserve my comments, I want to wait till after the next one to make a comment, and then I'll wait till after you vote, and then we hear from the next.
Okay, any further discussion or questions? We are ready for a vote.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes. That motion carries. Okay, let's move on to 15B.
15B, and we have Judge Gubo is here. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. I hope I'm as successful as Judge Apple was on her grant. A year ago, you folks approved a planning grant for us to create a adult mental health treatment court. And we worked through that and made application now to actually implement an adult mental health treatment court. And we was approved by the State Court Administrative Office, and the grant amount is $178,328. It's a pretty significant grant. And we are the only district court in Oakland County to have an adult mental health treatment court. The circuit court does somewhat operate a kind of a combined mental health program, but we're the only court really in Oakland County that is exclusively going to be a mental health treatment court. So this is a grant starting October 1st through September 30th of 2018. And we are already now up and running and have some participants, and it's going pretty well. And like Judge Apple, I invite you over to observe. We will make you sign confidentiality agreements, though. But I ask for your approval.
Okay, let's get a motion for a resolution approving the contract between the State Court Administrative Office, known as SCAO, and the 45th District Court for the 2018 Mental Health Court Grant Program.
So moved?
Support.
Having been moved and supported, are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Rich.
The amount of the grant's $178,000. The program, what's the budget for the program itself?
Can I take, I'm gonna.
I believe our city manager can answer that.
I just wanted to add my 2 cents. That's actually part of what I was going to say. These programs have remained within budget for the entirety of the time, which has been the entire time I've been here, they've been in place. This particular one, I think this is more than double the grant money that was awarded in the current, right?
Correct.
And so they have maintained these in budget. And I just wanted to say on a personal note, for what it's worth, I attend the graduation ceremony here for the Veterans Treatment Court at least, and I can't possibly think of a better program that government is running than these 2 programs. This is exactly what, in my opinion, our court system needs. And our court is, we're very fortunate to have them running these programs over there. So I very much appreciate it.
Right. In further answer to your question, the statute requires that we work with Oakland County through the Community Mental Health, which has been renamed as now the Oakland County Community Health Network. And so participants in this program have to be screened by them. They have to, in order to be eligible. Many of them are duly diagnosed with a mental health problem as the primary diagnosis, but then they may have an underlying drug or alcohol or substance abuse problem. And I'll say most of the funding actually goes for a couple of people. We have to contract with the Oakland County Community Health Network, and they have an individual who is specifically assigned to our program. She does all the evaluations. She meets with these folks weekly. There's also money in the program to have a designated probation officer. We're currently in the process of hiring that individual. We've put out requests, so we don't have that person right now. So that will be used to, that's a part-time person. The money also goes to take care of testing, one of the requirements of every participant, and they have to volunteer to be in this program, is they must participate in testing. So there's money in the program to pay for testing. There's money in the program to pay for treatment. The two programs that we have as specialty courts, and the reason that we originally got started in them, is unlike a lot of the drug or substance abuse treatment programs that are at other courts, there's no dollars for the treatment. In these programs, both of them, either through the VA or through the Oakland County Community Health Network or other providers, the grant money actually goes to pay for the treatment. So we will not be hearing from the participants, I can't afford the testing, I can't afford the treatment. You get in this program, your treatment, your testing is all paid for. So that's why we're doing pretty well as far as success rates. Mental health, it's a tough population, and we know people are going to stumble and fall, and hopefully we will. So far, we've had a few people that have come to us from other courts that haven't been, let's say, real successful, and I think that's maybe because the judges in those courts just didn't know what to do with them, and they said, you're going to Oak Park to the treatment court, and they really didn't want to be here. Whereas the people that come out of our courts, we screen them pretty well, and they really want to participate and help themselves. So we're just getting started, but that's where the money is going. So they keep a good eye on us. If you look, well, you don't have it, but the city manager can get you copies of all of this. We have pretty strict audits that go along with this. So as the program progresses, we are monitored throughout the program all year. And so, Judge Apple's dealing with veterans, I'm doing on the mental health side. We each have 2 days a month that are designated to do this. It takes a lot of time. You spend a lot more time with the defendants in these matters than you would in any other case. And all the participants kind of start to work with each other and help each other as well. So we're kind of excited about this program and look forward to it going on for many years.
Amazing. Any further questions or discussion? Councilmember Weiss.
Just a quick question. You explained a little bit what you're going to be doing with the extra money that you're getting this year. Are you going to, do you believe you'll be able to increase your caseload at all due to the increased funding?
Well, we had certain targets. So for our first year, as we put in there, we said we were going to have a caseload of 25 people in this program. I think that's what it was. But we're thinking we're going to meet that and exceed it, within, I'll say, hopefully by July, halfway through the year.
Any additional questions or discussion? I believe we're ready for a vote.
And we just down the road, because many of the people there's certain qualifications. They have to live in Oakland County to participate in the mental health court. But we have a lot of people that come into our court that just live right on the other side of 8 Mile. So our plan as we look forward is to try to develop a program where we become a regional court and we're able to work with people in Wayne County as well. So that's a way that we could possibly increase our funding also, because we may be one of the only courts that can really do things across county lines.
And the money we receive is dedicated exclusively to each of the individual programs. So my vet court money stays with vet court, and the mental health court money stays there. And the other nice thing about these grants is there's no matching dollars to them. These dollars fund our program. There is some nonprofit money that comes in through the VA, and certainly my treatment protocol is different, because if you are a qualified vet, you're going down to the VA. So I don't need treatment dollars in my grant the same way mental health needs treatment dollars. But similarly, I have a case manager, it's called a VJO, that is provided by the Veterans Administration. So that's not even in our budget. That's part of the grant that it was an agreement that we entered into when we first got the grant 4 years ago, who's still a team member. So the grants aren't exactly the same, because Judge Gubo, I do have a case manager, also a part-time case manager that's included in my dollars, but there is more positions and treatment included in Judge Gubo's grant just because of the different nature of how they've been set up.
Sound like amazing programs. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Hopefully see you next year.
See you then.
Thank you.
City Manager Tungate, you want to tell us about this Planning Commission, the value wholesale?
Yes, I do. But first, I would like to have Director Maroney join me at the podium and give us an overview. This is a recommendation from the Planning Commission. So this will be the last, correct?
Well, with the second reading, you could possibly get another one. It's hard to say.
Well, that's a bummer, geez.
So Value Wholesale, which is located on 8 Mile Road, has 2 buildings right now that they'd like to add 2 additions to connect all of their buildings together into one. The Planning Commission has approved the site plan with a few items that do still need to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals next week. One is in regards to the actual off-site premise sign that they want to get, and that is just to direct the truck traffic into a separate driveway so they don't pass the entrance on 8 Mile and have to loop all the way around. So it'll help their truck traffic go in the correct entrance. And then the second item is not having enough landscaping. However, we've been working with the architects on this plan, and they're going to add some additional landscaping to the frontage on 8 Mile to dress up what appears to just be parking lot today, and then also removing the asphalt between 8 Mile Road and the sidewalk to green that up as well and add some grass there. So we think that their plan is a good one moving forward. The only thing that they do have to do as part after the site plan's approved is make sure that the engineering for the stormwater management meets all our requirements for the City of Oak Park. And that'll happen after we've approved the site plan. They'll start working on those.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have a motion for the City Council to consider accepting the recommendation of the Planning Commission for approval of the final site plan for Value Wholesale, 15188 8 Mile Road, subject to the enumerated conditions listed 1 through 5?
So moved?
Support?
Having been moved and supported, are there any questions or discussion? Councilmember Weiss.
I just wanted to make a comment about the site itself in terms of the landscape issue. It is a very long, narrow piece of property, and so the part that's street view, it's not a lot. So even though the site, it doesn't meet the requirements for the landscaping, you don't necessarily see most of the site from the street. Is that correct?
That is absolutely true, and that's one of the reasons why we think their plan for landscaping will work, because it's not going to negatively affect the community.
Any other questions or discussion? I think we're ready for a vote.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Motion carries. And the last thing, City Manager Tungate, why don't you tell us what this is?
15D, I'm going to have Assistant City Manager Yee join me to discuss this mandate from Lansing.
Thank you. Attached is a proposal from OHM Advisors to perform the Water System Asset Management Plan development required by the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. It is recommended that the proposal from OHM Advisors to perform the Water Asset Management Plan development for an hourly not-to-exceed amount of $16,400 upon review of the City Attorney's Office. Although this was not a specifically budgeted expense, funding is available within the Water and Sewer Fund expenditure line item 592-18-538801.
Do we have a motion for that proposal?
So moved.
Support.
Having been moved and supported, is there any discussion or questions? Councilmember Weiss.
Could City Manager, and if you could just explain why this was not budgeted for.
Okay. This was what we call an unfunded mandate, and the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality has required that we submit this plan that's known as an AMP plan, Asset Management Plan, by the end of the year. We were in hopes that they would provide some guidance on what they expected, or more guidance on what they expected from this plan. We really didn't receive any, so it wasn't something that we're comfortable doing in-house. However, it is something that we feel is a worthwhile endeavor. I don't think it's wasted money, and I don't think the proposal amount is excessive. I think it's a well-priced item. And it wasn't budgeted because we just didn't know what to expect. So we weren't prepared for it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Believe we're ready for a vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion carries. City Manager Tungate, did you have something to say, or are you just
Yes,
playing with the pen?
I'm doing both, actually, but I do have something to say, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, I wanted to remind you and our public that City Hall will be closed on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week for the holiday. This is a floating holiday, and City Hall is always closed on the off Friday. I wanted to remind you of that. But other than that, Mayor Pro Tem Radner, members of council, that completes the city manager report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, call to the audience. If anybody would like to tell us something, please tell us your name and your address. And remember that you only get 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Max Milstein. I live at 14400 LaBelle. I just had a quick comment on the ordinance change that you discussed at 13A. My understanding is that this would limit storage units to lots of a certain size, and I'm concerned because if you go around Oak Park, you see that there's a lot of storage, a lot of it's sort of single-story, sort of sprawling storage units, and you see some that are a bit more built up and multi-story, and I'm concerned that this is going to discourage the building of those multi-story units, which tend to be denser and a more efficient use of the land that they're on, and I'm just concerned that this is going to, again, discourage that more efficient use of the land, and I hope that that's something that you'll take into account when you take a final up or down vote on this. I don't know if there's any way it can be changed or thought about, but I just don't want to see us saying to people that they can't build up larger things on smaller lots. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Certainly a reasonable concern, and obviously if you'd like to discuss with us afterwards, there's some directors that are still going to be here, and you can always call City Hall when it's business hours. But thank you for voicing your concern, and thank you for making that suggestion.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
My understanding, according to our regular ordinance, that any structure that's a certain height has to have so much landscaped land around it. So would that automatically, if you wanted to build a multi-level, you would have to have more land anyway? Is that correct?
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could, I'm not prepared to answer that question. I don't know the answer to that question, and I'm actually going to have maybe, Kim, if you'd like to speak with Councilmember Weiss afterwards, that would be great.
Thank you.
I'm not familiar with that part of it yet today.
Okay, call to the council. It's been an honor being acting mayor for the last half hour. Everybody have a good evening. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. And we missed hearing those words, you got to pay your lawyer. Have a good night.
Councilmember Weiss.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I just wanted to quickly remind everyone that the Recreation Department has a 5-year survey out right now to get feedback from the public about what you would like to see in our recreation program moving forward. It's an online survey. You can go to the city website and fill it out, and it's a SurveyMonkey. It's pretty brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Rich.
Thank you. Have a good night.
There being no further business before the council, this meeting is adjourned.